Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Art of Living Well podcast. It's right after Thanksgiving here, and it was such a fun holiday weekend, and I'm really curious to hear how your weekend went, Stephanie.
I know this is the first time we meet every Monday morning. We have our standing meeting that we didn't talk about the weekend because we want to talk about it and just share it with all you guys at the same time. It was really nice. We were here. My son came home Tuesday night from college, which was, of course, great. My mother-in-law was in town. And for the first time in probably like 8 or 9 years, we did not have a hockey tournament.
Wow.
So we have had 1 to 3 hockey tournaments every year since my oldest, who's now 19, was in like 4th grade. And my son, we were supposed to have one. And then my son ended up switching teams kind of last minute. And his new team didn't have a hockey tournament and no hockey practice or anything. So if you live in Minnesota, you know that like Thanksgiving hockey tournaments are a big thing. So that was kind of like a gift of time, if you will. And yeah, it was nice. We were here. We love to cook. So we make all the sides. And this year, I like to do different sides. So I'm not like doing the traditional bean green casserole or anything like that. But I found a ton of really good recipes. And I have for like the last year or two from New York Times that they get emailed to me. So all 4 of the sides we made, or 3 of the 4 sides, were all from New York Times. And they were really yummy. Like even my kids were like, oh, this squash is good because they had these like cinnamon maple like nuts on them. And I used tamarind for the first time for Brussels sprouts. And it was just, yeah, so it was fun. And then we were supposed to play pickleball, and then it ended up snowing and the courts were too wet because it was outside. So we didn't play pickleball, but we did yesterday. We went for a bit right before my son, a little bit before he was going to head to the airport. We went and played pickleball, which was really fun. And honestly, it was just fun to like get out, do something different. And they had fun together, like just watching my kids all interact and do something. I don't know, just like enjoyable as a parent, just to like watch actually, because they were having a really good time. What else? I went and saw Wicked on Friday night with my daughter and my mother-in-law, which was very fun. Yeah, and I have to say the one thing, must not have been to the movies in a while, but is it a thing now? And apparently my kids all said it is, to bring your blankets to
Everybody
the movie.
had blankets because I saw Wicked too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, have you experienced that before? The blankets? Like,
no, but I haven't been to a movie. I can't tell you the last time I was at a movie.
I think Barbie, I was thinking back to this. I think Barbie may have been the last movie I saw.
So yeah, there were blankets everywhere. And I like put my hood up in the movie.
People had cheesecake because
I've never heard of cheesecake.
No, because it's near the Cheesecake Factory where I went, and I looked over at the end and the girls next to me had their individual things of cheesecake.
That is funny.
Cheesecake and blankets. I learned something new about going to the movies. I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, how was your Thanksgiving? I know you have like a big family, and I'm sure you had all kinds of fun things.
It was a really awesome weekend. All the kids are home or were home, and unfortunately, Jordan had to work the days like Tuesday through Monday of this week, so he missed out on a bunch of the fun family things, but was with us in the evenings, including Thanksgiving dinner. So that was good. That's the life of a doctor, unfortunately, but yeah, we had a lot of fun. We went to Sauna camp on Friday. I took the kids there. I've been trying to get them to go there with me for a while.
What did they think?
First of all, it was so cold here on Friday. I mean, I think the high was 15, but it felt like 4, my phone said. So everybody had fun. One of my daughter's feet were really cold. My youngest and my oldest swam out to the floating sauna, which I was very impressed with because there's no way I was doing that. But it was really fun. And, you know, it's always a interesting group of people there. And we had good conversation, and it was just very outside of their box. So it was and mine, because I'm still not, you know, this was the coldest I've ever cold plunged in for sure. So, and it was really cold, and I had no one guiding me. You know what I mean? I was like the person in charge of my kids. So that was an interesting role too.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. And then you mentioned pickleball. I have some relatives that are really into pickleball. We all love pickleball, but so they organized a round robin, and we went to this place in Minneapolis, and it was really fun. And we had 3 courts, and my, I guess she's my aunt. She organized like how everyone was going to be switching partners. Oh, wow. And we switched every game, and we just played for 2 hours, and it was all ages. Like, I mean, I think the youngest person was 15 and the oldest person was in their 70s. So it was really fun.
Isn't that what's so great about the sport?
Yes.
Like my 14-year-old was having a phenomenal time playing. And with 70-year-old, they can play with their grandparents. It's like a multi-generational activity.
And I love that like everyone was different levels and partnered up, and we kept changing, and there was no winning, no winning the tournament. It was just a round robin. It was very fun.
Yeah.
And a great, I do some Black Friday shopping online. I absolutely did. But like, we didn't go into the stores. Mm-hmm. We didn't even engage in any of that. And I love that, it was about doing other things together than just shopping.
Right.
Yeah, so it was fun. And I loved Wicked, by the way. Like, I absolutely loved it.
It was really good.
I thought it was so good. Some people are like, oh, it was so long, or it was fine. I'm like, I loved it.
Well, I can't remember the last time. I was remembering the last time I saw it actually like live. And I think it was in New York in like 2018. Like, it was a while ago since I've seen the show Wicked. But we took our kids to it. So I was like, oh, well, this was good. I mean, although my boys did not go. I don't think they would have loved it. My boys were at the Timberwolves game. So this was a good thing for us to do.
Okay.
With Grandma. It was fun. She really liked it.
Yeah. So my son saw it and my husband saw it, and they both liked it.
Oh, good.
But, you have to appreciate musicals and whatnot.
Right.
I'm excited for the second one to come out. I think it's going to be a long time, but I'll be excited. And here I am in my green, and here you are in your pink as usual. So we've got the Glinda and the Elphaba thing going on right here on this podcast.
Just don't paint your face green, Marnie. That's all.
Well, you never know.
Oh,
anyway,
my gosh.
So did you read anything good this weekend?
Well, I have been reading and listening to a couple things. So, I do audibles too. So I finished The 12-Hour Walk on your recommendation. So that's a Colin O'Brady book. And, I've known and hear about him, but I just hadn't committed to reading one of his books. And it's quick. It's super quick, which was good. Because
What'd you think about it?
Peter Attia's book right before that. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And I kept talking, I remember you mentioning to me not that long ago, like, oh, I may do a 12-hour walk in 2025. And I was like, oh my God, that just doesn't sound, I don't know. I mean, we did Everesting. I know we did 29, but for some reason I was just like, I don't know how that would work. So as soon as I started listening and he talks about the 12-hour walk, I found myself like when my son would get in the car and it would come on, and my kids don't want to listen to my books and podcasts when they get in the car, but whatever. I started telling them about it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm very intrigued by it. It was interesting hearing about his expeditions and what he did and how things have played out in his life. I think the messages were really powerful and inspirational. And I think a lot of people can relate to him. I mean, I almost was like, should I be giving this book out to my family for the holidays? I don't know. So I am intrigued, and I think I want to do the 12-hour walk. I'll just say that.
I had no doubt that once you read the book, you'd feel that way. By the way, just saying, like, you think, and actually I'm in this like little Instagram group with some 29029 people. And one of the women just did it. And she did it on the day of her mother's death, like the anniversary of her mother's death. And it was her way to honor her mother and to just think about her and memorialize her. And I was like, what a beautiful way to honor someone that isn't living anymore. And just to like think about them and think about your relationship. And I mean, hopefully in a positive way, right?
Right.
I thought that was really beautiful.
That is really beautiful. And when I was thinking about it, so I was out of town like 2 weekends ago with my daughter, and my phone didn't charge, and I went on a walk and I had nothing. So I didn't have a phone, which is part of the 12-hour walk. You don't have a phone with you, or you have one, but you're not using it. So I did a 1-hour walk. I was like, if I can do the 1/12 of the 12-hour walk, but what I started thinking about is how I was going to do the 12-hour walk on my 1-hour walk that I couldn't. It was really lovely. I was in Florida, so it was much warmer than it was here. And I was like, okay, if I can do this 1 hour with no preparation, like just it was an unplanned thing because my phone didn't charge the night before. I was like, I can do this. I think I can do this. So
yeah,
anyway.
it's definitely a challenge that is going to be on my list for 25.
Yeah. Yes. So what have you been reading, or what did you read this weekend?
So I've read a bunch of books recently, and I just read a couple like fluffy, just like light, fun books because every so often I need that. So I read 2 that I really liked, Stephanie. I'm sure you'll like both of them.
Okay. I'm writing them down.
One of them was called Just for the Summer by Abby.
I read that.
Oh, you did?
Yes. Yeah, I read it over the summer.
Where it took place in Minnesota. Which I loved about it.
And my daughter read it too. She took it and was like, oh, I want this.
Yeah. And actually, I realized it's a part 3. Which I did not know. It says
we need
like
to go back and read
3.
1 and 2.
So I guess there's a number 1 and 2, which I had no idea. I was attracted to the book. Someone told me about it because it took place in Minnesota. And I was like, well, that would be kind of fun to read.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I just plowed through it really fast. And then I also read The Wedding People. I'm blanking on who it's by, so that can be in the show notes. But it's also a really light read, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically about a woman who comes across a wedding party in very dire circumstances, and how that changes her life. And it's really good, and it's just unexpected.
Well, I'm going to put that one on the list and buy it for like holiday travel coming up, which will be good.
Yeah. So
perfect.
Anyway, and just thinking about like the weekend and how we're in December here. We're in the first week, leading into the second week, I guess, of December. There's not much time left to the end of the year, right? Like, so we're wrapping up 2024. And I think it's really important to think about our time and how we spend our time and how we dedicate our time to the things that we want to dedicate our time to.
Because I think what both of us are seeing, both myself, my family, and others, and our clients, it's people they have priorities, and they have they kind of know if they have a vision of maybe how they want to feel or what they want to get out of life. And then they sit down and go through your day. Like if you map out your day and where you spend your time, you're like, oh, I'm spending 3 to 4 hours a day watching TV, scrolling on my phone, outside of work and like the necessities. And well, I guess if I watch TV for 2 hours and not 4, what could you do with 2 hours? That is a ton of time, people, like really a ton of time. And so it's just like, how do you prioritize the hours that you're given every single day with what you want to achieve? And it's not even like, oh, I want to accomplish something and like be all goal focused. I mean, that's great. Yes. But just like how you want to live, how you want to show up, how you want to show up for yourself, your family, your friends, like where do you want to spend your time? So, to me, like also, if you go back to like the love languages, like quality time is like one of my top love languages. So this is really hits home for me. Like it was Saturday night and I realized we really hadn't done an activity with just the 5 of us, like after my mother-in-law left, and just something that was like fun. And so we literally booked the pickleball court Saturday night at like 7:00 because I was like, I want 1 hour. All we had is an hour. My daughter had to work, but that was okay. And it was so much fun. And they played more than I did, but it was fun for me to like watch my kids engage. Like that's all I wanted was time with my family. And then funny enough, yesterday we dropped my son off at the airport, and an hour later he calls and says his flight's 3 hours delayed.
Aww.
And he ended up getting on the direct flight. I mean, he ended up having 3 different flights yesterday because he ended up getting on the direct flight. They didn't even make us pay extra. So my husband went and picked him up, and we got the gift of time. We got an extra dinner. He was leaving at he was supposed to fly out at 3, and then his flight was going to be 8. So we went and picked up like dinner, something that we know he would really want. And we had this wonderful impromptu family dinner that we didn't have. Like that to me was like a gift, that extra time. And it worked out. And then I got to drive him to the airport for a second time, which was again, more time with him.
And like for me, at least, I do not like driving to the airport. So know that
we've talked about this.
driving to the airport. The only people I ever want to drive to the airport are my kids because I'm not a fan of driving to the airport.
No. And one of my kids was like, oh, you're going to have to drive back there. And I was like, that's okay because I get to spend an extra 20 minutes or it's like 15 minutes to the airport from my house with Will.
Yeah. So I'll be driving to the airport later today, actually. Yeah. And I drove to the airport yesterday and I drove to the airport last week.
Right. Yes. There's been lots of airport driving.
Yes.
But if you reframe those thoughts about like why, and Marnie and I have had this conversation on air about we don't like to drive to the airport, either does one of our guests. So we're all in the same spot. But if you kind of flip it as like, I'm going to get to spend this quality time that I wouldn't otherwise have. Mm-hmm. And I think it's different when you're spending it with your kids because that are in college, you just don't get that much time with them.
It's fleeting.
Yes, it's fleeting. And you just have a completely different perspective on that time.
I was just going to say, like, thinking about time, I feel like it's really easy to get stuck on that hamster wheel where you're just going through the motions. You're going through your day, you're going to work, you're eating, you're scrolling, you're watching Netflix, you're doing whatever it is. And then you're going to sleep and you're waking up and you're doing it again.
Right.
And I think being intentional about your time and being mindful about your time is so important. And it's just taking the time to be intentional about your time can help you.
Yes. And one thing I noticed this weekend, I didn't really go on. There's probably 4 days I did not go on social media. Like I didn't post a picture of a family. I didn't see anyone else's Thanksgiving. Sorry if I didn't see something that you posted. I was on for like a second and I found some funny videos I watched for a minute and then I was off. And, I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but just think about how many hours you have in your day and how you want to spend it. And one really great way to do that Marnie and I are really good at is come on for a health transformation audit where we literally will help you envision your ideal day from the moment you wake up, how you want to feel, how do you want to end your day? And we will help you map it out. And then you'll walk away with 1 or 2 tangible action steps that you can implement to help you prioritize your time and get what you want out of your life.
And it's so important to visualize your ideal day because if you can't even put into your mental headspace, like what you want out of your day or what you want your day to look like, how are you ever going to implement an ideal day? Right. So it's important to think about what you want in your ideal day. What are the things that are like your non-negotiables? And then beyond that, once you can get those non-negotiables in, what are the things you'd like to add in? And we want to help you, yes. come to these. We want to ask you the questions that are going to help you find your answers.
Because sometimes what we find is we're spending time based on what we think we should be doing or someone else is doing. And there's a disconnect between where we want to be and where we currently are. And it's all because of like the actions that we take on a day-to-day basis. And it's like you say one thing, but yet you do something else, right? And sometimes it's just hard when you're in the moment and you're just on this hamster wheel of day to day. And we get it. Everyone is busy. That's where Marnie and myself can help you come to that like aha moment of, oh, well, this is really how I want to feel and how I want to prioritize my day. And this is how I'm doing it. And how do you bridge the gap between where you are now and where you truly want to be?
Well, and it's funny because I was actually talking to my family about this over this weekend and even just health and wellness in general. And Stephanie and I are in it, right? Like we are in this every single day. We're living it. We're breathing it. We're studying it. We're learning about it. And sometimes we forget that this isn't on top of mind for everybody else. And we are just as, I don't want to say guilty. Guilty is not the right word, but we fall into the same rat race that everybody else falls into. I think we're just in a place where we're getting more reminders on how to refocus and reframe. And we love guiding other people to help them reframe.
Yeah. And so as we round out 2024 and then you look ahead to next year, what's one step that you could do today? And one thing that we would love to have everyone join us is our Vitality Reboot, which is coming up. in January. It kicks off Sunday, January 5th. It's 14 days. And it's this amazing community where you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to have like the physical symptoms that you're looking for, less bloating and fewer cravings and better sleep, and your mood's going to be improved and all that. And it'll help you reset healthy habits, but it's going to allow you time to look inward. And I think January is really the perfect time, especially if you live somewhere kind of colder. It's like this little bit of a hibernation phase. And I think that's just good for all of us. Like whether we're introverts or extroverts, it's good for us to look inward and make an assessment of what do we want this next year to look like? What do we want out of it? And this amazing community that we've created will help you do just that.
And this is my favorite detox of the 4.
I think it's almost the easiest.
Reboots that even though it's 14 days, like Stephanie said, it's the perfect time to go inward, to hibernate. You reduce inflammation, but it's not just bodily inflammation. It's the inflammation in your mind too. And it's just like, it's like a reboot. It's a refresh. It's, ready to start the year off with a bang. So I'm really I'm like ready to do it now. I know we're not starting until January 5th, but I'm excited for this detox, and we have some fun things planned. It's going to be a great 2 weeks.
Yes.
As we wrap up this conversation, Jesse Itzler, who's someone that Stephanie and I both really, I don't know what the right word is. We really like a lot of what he has to say. And
we're inspired by him.
Inspiring and motivating. And he put this out into the world a couple of years ago. And I took a picture of it because it just really resonated with me. And I just want to share it with you all today. And what he said is that there's, about 8,700 hours in a year. And when we think about where our time goes, the average American will work about 40 weeks a year. And that's 2,000 hours of the 8,700 hours. And then we typically will eat 3 meals a day. If we say that the meals are roughly 30 minutes a day.
Okay. I would hope that the meals are 30 minutes, but
well, some people
aren't handling their food, but that's another
some people may
topic.
Scarf, right? But let's say the average is 30 minutes. Maybe, hopefully it's longer. We're just working just conceptually here.
Yep.
Roughly 500 hours a year you're eating. Sleeping, if you're sleeping on an average of 6 to 7 hours a night, again, we hope it's more like 7 to 9, but thinking about the average American, it probably is closer to that 6 or 7 hours. That's 5,000 hours of sleep. And then Stephanie mentioned, the 4 to 5 hours of screen time. And that's not your work screen time. That's like your social media scrolling, your Netflix, your TV time.
That's like what you're choosing to do in your downtime.
Yep. And that's about 15 hours. So if we add all of that up, that is 75% of your 100% of your 8,600 hours. So in that 75% of your time, you're eating, sleeping, working, and scrolling or watching TV. So that only leaves 25% left of your time. And that, to me, when I heard those stats, I was like, wow, that is crazy. So it's like, okay, that 25% of my time, it's already so precious. Now it feels even more precious, right? Like, what are you going to do with that time? And Stephanie mentioned like the social media part, or that 4 to 5 hours, you can reduce that for sure and gain even more than 25% of your time.
And also think about like the people that you want to spend time with, and how do you get your priorities aligned with those people? So you're doing things that are, say you want to go on a walk. Well, maybe you do it with a friend. So now you're spending time with a friend and also on a walk or going to a class, or, just, it's like that saying is like, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something really powerful because it has to do with time that we take into the year. Like, and I'm not saying like, okay, like disconnect from your friends or anything like that, but surround yourself with people that have similar goals and priorities to you.
And sometimes that can be hard. I mean, if you're currently in an environment where that's not the case, maybe it's just taking some baby steps to find some people that align more with you.
Yeah. And that's why our community detox is so important, because you're going to be with like-minded people.
And motivated.
Yes.
And motivating, because it's, a give and take.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we hope that you have enjoyed this episode. We would love for you to come sign up for our health transformation audit. We'd love for you to join us for our Vitality Reboot starting January 5th.
Don't forget to head over to YouTube and watch us in person and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
And you can guess who's Glinda here and who's Elphaba. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.